Okay, so welcome. We have to fly through with the what I call the activation energy of the reaction, which means we have to start again on Yud Aleph and Aleph to go through it Nochmal. Otherwise, we're not going to understand what's happening in the Gemara tonight. It's just not. We're not holding cup. Most of us. I'm not from way back when. It's a story involving Rabbi Akiva at the bottom of the page. Right. I realized also we didn't see that Tosfot dialing back even a little farther. It says on Yudal Aleph Be'echad B'Shvat Rosh Hashana La'ilan, and that's actually the two in the two dots inside, two dots on either side. Yeah, it's a quote from the Mishnah. You see that in 14a, 2, 4, 6 lines up from the bottom. So the Gemara, right? Remember that Be'echad B'Shvat? Yeah. Okay. So it mentioned Be'echad B'Shvat Rosh Hashana La'ilan, but of course in the Mishnah we had that according to Beit Hillel. It's on the 15th of the month, yeah. So just to see Tosfot here, Be'achad b'Shvat my timer. You see that there's Tosfot there on 14a. Mefarish nam lebeit Hillel kimol lebeit Shammai ela kama nakat l'mar zman chanitata shel gishmei shanazu be'achad b'Shvat u'lamar b'tetvav b'Shvat. So the point is that whatever's going to be said here in this my time at the beginning of the Gemara, where it says, how do we get to 1 Shvat, 15 Shvat? It seems to be a point within Tkufat Tevet, even though there's most of Tkufat Tevet left. Remember, the season is called a Tkufa, and there are 4 such Tkufot. So the winter season, it starts with Tevet, it's Tevet, Shvat, Adar, and then we get to the spring with Nisan. They're not hard and fast rules, by the way. We saw previously a previous blot that to discuss that in Adar already there's some things already coming into bloom and the like. It's not just in Chodesh Nisan, but it's in that time frame. Anyway, here Tosfot want you to know that the rationale for Beit Shammai and the rationale for Beit Hillel is the same. They're just having a machloket, a mitziut. Is it the first of the month or the 15th of the month? But it's the same principle that animates them both. But this is what I wanted you to see. B'chol achanutim kodem zman hazeh hainu agishmei shana shalifnei tishrei. So anytime there's a chanata, remember we say everything for trees goes according to the blossom, the flower, which is then going to fall off before the fruit shows up, which is the second round. Tosfot here point out that whenever we talk about chanata, any chanata that happens before whatever this line is in the calendar, 1 Shvat, 15 Shvat, means that the rainfall that is causing that chanata is the rainfall from before the previous Tishrei. That's what's causing it to happen. And that's what he writes.
Subsequent.
Yes. V'chol hachanutim kodim zman hazeh hainu al gishmei shana shalifnei Tishrei. V'ha delo azil be'ilanot batar Tishrei kemo b'shlish b'tfua. How come you don't therefore make the line for trees also be Tishrei? You do that for Tavua. We say that if it grew a third before Rosh Hashana, it belongs to the previous year. If it grew to the point of 1/3 growth after Rosh Hashana, that's for the new year. How come? Mishum darshina le'el pavim sheberavit v'adayin asurin mishum orla. Because back on page 10a, we had seen a Gemara there that you could have a scenario where you would have the 4th year that was still usher because of Orla. The 4th year, remember, we call it something called Rabbi. Fruit-bearing trees, the first 3 years of the fruits, we're not allowed to eat them. The 4th year, we're allowed to eat them, but only if we're in Yerushalayim. Kodesh Hilulim Lashem, Pasuk in Parshat Kedoshim. And that's Rabbi. Rabbi Lashon Revi'i, not the Rabbi. Kerem Rabbi is the 4th year. The way that was presented in the Gemara on 10a was in such a way that it essentially made the point that sometimes you could be in the 4th year because Tishrei has passed, but you didn't get to Tu B'Shvat in the 4th year, and therefore it's still part of the 3rd year of Orla. It didn't hit the Revi line until you hit Tu B'Shvat in that year. What I'm drawing out from this Tosfot is that according to what Tosfot explains, on a certain level, even for trees, fruit-bearing trees, the line that determines how the maser is going to work is all about when the water went into the tree that's causing this growth. When it comes to other types of vegetation, it'll be more manifest at an earlier time. The line, therefore, is Tishrei. When it comes to fruit-bearing trees, the line apparently is still Tishrei, but you can't really detect it then, because really the detection point is going to be Chanata, which is going to come around either 1 Shvat or 15 Shvat, depending on who you accept, Beit Shammai, Beit Hillel. And that will reflect that the water that was being stored in the tree that caused this Chanata is predominantly water that fell when? Before Rosh Hashana, Tishrei time, before Tishrei. Yeah? Now, how do Chazal know this? So they know, but the White Tosfot are organizing it. It's something to do with the water. Now you'll say to me, it doesn't rain in the summer. So what water are we talking about here? Yeah, I'm just showing you. It's the water. I'm showing you what it says. Hainu agish meishana shalifnei tishrei. So it means it's the water that came from even before that. The water from the previous rainy season. Well, no, but here it says in the Tosfot here, it says Tishrei. It means that it came from the Geshem, that was from the year before Tishrei. Yeah, from the previous year. That's a long time.
But it's almost a year.
Yeah.
It's very curious that they're using Tishrei as a cutoff point rather than curious.
Nisan of the previous year or something, which is when the rains would have stopped. Yeah, I think Tosfot want to level things out. That has to do with Tishrei is still the Rosh Hashana, but it's not going to be manifest till later. So therefore, we're saying basically that the line is based on Chanata. You should be aware the Chanata, therefore the line, because it has to do with Chanata, is surrounding Aleph or two Bishvat. But really, internally, the water is somehow from a year earlier.
The reality of how much rain there was is irrelevant. For example,
Okay.
there was a famine,
A drought.
drought. It was a terrible drought. And there's very little rain during the rainy season from
Yeah. Let's say, yeah.
now until this.
God forbid, but yeah, let's say it happened.
Once
Yeah. So the next fall there was, and then the next spring there was fruit. Yeah. Okay.
Disregarding the reality.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm just telling you what Tosfos was saying. Tosfos seemed to have invested interest in wanting you to know that the Rov, the Geshamim, had to have been from the previous year, and that's really what's going on. Look at that. I'm just telling you what Tosfos was saying.
It's possible that Tosfos was victim, if I might use that, of his locale.
Yeah, they're locale. France, Germany, yeah, right. France, yeah, all the time.
Hey,
Germany.
It's a good point, but I gotta think the whole focus has to be on
Eretz Yisrael, yeah. I don't know. I mean, based on Masechet Tani and all these other places, they know it doesn't rain. It doesn't rain in ER Sivan Tammuz Av Elul Tishrei. Tishrei maybe, but we know in Israel it doesn't rain. It's not the rainy season. I don't know. I'm just telling you. I'm telling you what Tosfot says. My understanding of it, and it's
rain should start actually
interesting.
Yeah,
really, it should. Yeah.
So Tishrei is maybe it needs the Kufa of Tishrei or something.
I don't know. I'm just telling you what it says right here. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's a bit strange, only because Tosfot was alleging the water came from a year earlier, But I still stand by what I said last week, which I sent you all the link. I don't know if you saw it, to that article, scientific article, that basically when it's a little colder out, things kind of like stop, and then they start again with the starches that cause that the sap is actually moving up in the tree as a result of this process that happens at a particular time. And I sent you the whole thing. You'll look it up for yourself. What was it called? It was in the spring when the maple tree starts to warm up and get ready to bud. The stored starch is hydrolyzed. That was the word I was looking for, or dissolved into the sap moving in the tree. This process breaks the complex starch molecules into simpler sugar molecules like sucrose. Okay. Worthy of consideration.
Sucrose is really, I believe, the first stage in the photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis, yeah.
And then becomes starches after that.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you. We have a scientist in our midst, so helps. Moving right along. So the Gemara said, "My timer, Amar Rabbi Lazar, Amar Rabbi Oshaya, Hov Yatz Rov Gishmei Shana, VeAdayin Rov Tkufa Mibachutz." Right. So most of the rain has already fallen by the time you get to Shvat, because it's been raining from Mar Cheshvan, Kislev, Tevet, and Shvat. So you only have Shvat and Adar left. So most of it's finished. So maybe that will be enough. Right. And also it mentions this thing, and most of the tekufa is still outside. Micah Amar, what does that mean? So even though most of the days are still left in the tekufa, because tekufa tevet is tevet shvat adar, so al shvat or 15 shvat either way, haven't really got, you haven't got to the halfway point, at least according to Beit Shammai, you haven't. Now we come to the story, which is going to be the focus for tonight, which will animate everything else that we'll say until Ted Vav Amud Aleph. So here's how it goes. So Tana Rabbanan, Ma'aseh Rabbi Akiva, Shaliket Etrog be'echad b'Shvat, v'nagbo shnei isurin. Rabbi Akiva was malaket etrog. Etrog means the peyrot of the Elon etrog, and there are those who point out it means multiple fruits, because on one fruit you're not taking meiser. Right? If a guy goes to the field, he picks one etrog, it's not meiser worthy. You need like a group of them, and then you're taking a tithe from that. Also, this, as Tosa pointed out, we learned that one last time. He didn't take the first tithe twice, because then he'd have a big problem, right? He had this group, 100 etrogim, so he had two meisers. So it doesn't mean he took 10%, and then he took 10% of whatever was left, because that would be a problem if one of them was not really the meiser. So it had to have been the maser, secondary maser called maser sheni, or secondary maser called maser ani. He did both of those. How did he do it? He took maser sheni, he converted it to money, he brought it to Yerushalayim, he converted it back into fruits, bought fruit, and he gave it to poor people. He's Makayim both maser sheni and maser ani at the same time. And the Gemara says, next page.
If there were 100 Etrogim, who took 10 or 20?
10.
Only 10.
Well, it's not exactly 10, because first he had to take Truma, Gedola. But let's say he did a Truma Gedola, he had 100 left over, say he would take 10. That's 10%. But hold on. That 10% is going to go to the Levi. Now he has 90 left. From the 90 that are left, he's going to take 10%, which is 9. Sorry.
He uses the Meiser Shani and Meiser Honey to pay for his travel expenses and how. No, he has to take and convert it back to fruits and convert the money.
Maser Sheni is the secondary tithe after the primary tithe is given, meaning you gave it to the Kohen, and then from whatever's left, you took 10% and gave to the Levi. Now you have whatever you have left. I'm using the example 90 left. 9, which is 10% of the 90, 9 of those etrogim you have to bring to Yerushalayim. You could eat them in Yerushalayim. But if it's too long a journey and the fruit's not going to survive, you're not going this yontif because something happened with your health, so you have to go the next yontif. So you take the 9 etrogim, you sell them, or rather you transfer their kedusha, I should say, onto money, and then those 9, technically you could actually eat. The coinage that you have not representing the 9, you have to bring that up to Yerushalayim. When you get to Yerushalayim, you're going to buy fruit in Yerushalayim with that, or fruits, whatever. Yeah. And then that fruit, in this case, according to Tosfot, Rabbi Akiva gave that fruit to poor people. So he was Makayim Maser Sheni by bringing it to Yerushalayim, and Maser Ani by giving it to poor people afterward.
Wasn't there a Maser that was used to pay your travel expenses?
Not aware of that.
That's on you.
That's your expense.
That's on you.
Yeah.
That you ate in Yerushalayim?
The money that you're going to use for food in Yerushalayim, you're going to take from the money that's the Maser Sheni money, but not the travel part.
No,
the food part. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, whatever that money's worth, but yeah.
Okay, that's what I.
Yeah. But he took that money and gave it to poor people because he was concerned. He didn't know. What didn't he know? So the first supposition to the Gemara here is, right, that
is the amount that you give to a Aniyim, is that the full 10%?
No. I mean, it's 10% of whatever was left. Yeah, and the 30 or the 60.
But the money, but the portion of the Meiser that he would eat.
It's nothing to do with poor people because it had to do with what year it was.
Oh.
In years 1, 2, 4, and 5 of the 7-year cycle, that's Maser Sheni years. Year 3 and year 6, Maser Ani years. Year 7, Shemitah, obvious.
So is only local, can be eaten locally in the locality.
Yeah.
Given to poor people. What the Akiva did was to do it
in Yerushalayim because he was trying to combine both ideas. The problem, you see, is that we have an issue with Meiser that was in the Tosfot that we did last time, that you can't give extra Meiser.
That's what I didn't understand. How did Rabbi Akiva combine the two?
That's Tosfot just says he must have combined the two because otherwise he would run into a problem.
How could he?
What do you mean?
They're different years.
That's the question of the Gemara. How could he have done two things at once? Right? The Gemara doesn't say that was the method that he used. Tosfot point out a problem, a conundrum. The conundrum is that you're not allowed to eat from your fruits if they're still tevel. Tevel means you didn't finish the tithes. So if you are in year 2 of the 7-year cycle, that's a Maser Sheni year. So then if you take that tithe, again, for hypothetical sake, 9 Etrogim, having given your Truma out of the 101, you gave 1 to the Kohen, you gave 10 to the Levi, now you have 90 left. You took 9 of those, you put it on the back of your motorcycle, you went up to Yerushalayim, and you decide you're eating the 9. That's normal. The problem is that you're not sure, is it year 2 or year 3? If it's year 3, you better not eat those 9. You have to give it to a poor person. So how could Rabbi Akiva have hedged and taken from the 99 and another 9, or maybe it's not 9, because once you take 9 from 90, you're left with 81. What's 10% of 81? 8.1, not 9. So 0.9 is extra from that 8.1. If you took 9 again, that's the wrong number. What is he supposed to give as Maser? And he doesn't know, is it year 2, is it year 3? If it's year 2, he's going to eat it. If it's year 3, the poor people are going to eat it. So now, what does he do? Well, he's kind of stuck. If he was meant to give that 9 to the poor people, he didn't give 9, he had 8.1, because that was the order I told it to you in, but he could have done the opposite. He could have given the 9 to the poor people, and then taken 8.1 and brought up to Yerushalayim and eaten that. The problem is, until he did the actual proper tithe, secondary tithe, the rest of the bunch is tevel. So just imagine it like this. He's got 90 etrogim left, and now the fun begins. He takes 9, and he says, well, what should I do with it? I'll do it for Maser Sheni. And then I'll take another 9 and give it to Maser Ani. Okay, let's say he gives it to Maser Sheni first, right? I guess then he would be in the clear. Give it to the Maser Sheni first. So because he gave it away, he took it up to, so to Maser Ani first is better. He gave it to the poor people. So he gave it stuck. Maybe it was stuck. Maybe it was Meiser. Then whatever he has left, from what's left, 8.1, 81, because he gave 9 away to poor people. 81 is 8.1. Now, 8.1. But if it's really that 9 was not allowed to give to a poor person, really he had to give Maser Sheni or transfer it to money before he gave it to the poor people. What did he give the poor people just now? Hevel. You can't give them Tevel. The opposite problem, the opposite way. Let's say he said, I'm taking the 9, it's Maser Sheni, I'm going to run to Yerushalayim, I'm going to eat it and gobble it up. Then I come back home, I have 81, I'm going to take 8.1, I'm going to give them to poor people. What if that 9 was really supposed to go to the poor people? So you know what he ate in Yerushalayim? Tevel. So Tosfot say there's only one way to thread the needle here in this story so that Rabbi Akiva actually didn't run into trouble. What's that? First, he converted it into money, took the money to Yerushalayim, converted the money back into fruits in Yerushalayim, and he took that and he gave it to the poor people. So he had the fruits there, but he didn't actually eat them. He could eat them or give them away. So he gave it away. That's Tosfot's trying to figure it out. The story is a very strange story. I mean, it's a very strange story, right? If you look at Rashi, Tosfot, back in Talmud, im shnei isurim mamashi frish le'matukan. Can't be literally meiser. So ela b'farish brusham shifrish maser echad l'maser sheni uvdao v'chilko l'aniyim. It must be that he was mafrish 1 meiser for maser sheni. He redeemed it, And he took the money. Sorry, he didn't buy the fruits again. He took the money, he gave that to the poor people. And the Haggah also Tosfot here in the inset in superscript. V'nagbo shnei isurim im shnei masrot mamash ifrish leimatukan damar b'masrot min kilku min hein mikul kalin. Right? You can't do that. You can't take. You can't be mafrish two masrot. You can't do that. That's mikul kal because part of it's going to be tevel. We were shouting farish. Shnia hanichneset lishlishit. It was the second year of the 7-year cycle going to the third year. V'hifresh maser sheni ufda'o. He redeemed it to money. V'chil kolanim v'amod achal b'Yerushalayim. And the money was consumed in Yerushalayim. Yeah, meaning he took the right. He gave it to this one. He gave it to that one. Yeah, I got the story wrong. According to this Haggah, by the way, it's that he took the maser sheni and he was poda it onto money. He gave the money to the he gave the fruits to the aniyim, and the money he ate in Yerushalayim.
The fruits in
wherever he's located. Kiryat Ono.
But he still didn't know which year.
Well, that's the whole question of the Gemara. How does he not know?
No, well, he didn't know if it was the second year, the third year, so he covered both his bases.
That's the point. He covered his bases. And the Gemara's question now for the rest of tonight is going to be, why do you have to cover his bases? Why do you know the halach is this way, the halach is that way? Why is so up in the air?
No, the idea of saying that a person is forgetful is human nature.
Rabbi Akiva? You just forgot? When I ask somebody, what's the halacha? Seems to be there's a suffix here.
No, what was the halacha? No, he didn't know what year it was.
He didn't know what year it was.
Yeah.
Well, wait a second. He didn't.
It's
It's what Steve just said. He didn't know what year these fruits belonged to. The Gemara started the story. There was an Echad Shvat.
And he had a servant that mixed the fruit together.
That's already my problem. This is already Echad Shvat. It was the first day of Shvat, and that means that he picked it on the first day of Shvat, so now he doesn't know. What does it belong to? Year 2 or year 3? Well, it depends if you paskin like Beit Shammai or Beit Hillel. Beit Shammai says already on Aleph Shvat, it's already a new year. Right? But Beit Hillel say, when did the new year start? 14 days later on the 15th of the month. So according to Beit Shammai, it's already the third year because it passed through the gauntlet of the day of Shvat. According to Beit Hillel, it's still year 2 because it hasn't got to Tu B'Shvat yet.
assuming that they were from when it was before Tishrei.
The Chanata. Well, no, the Chanata has to be, no. For fruit, we say the Chanata has to be before Shvat, before Tu B'Shvat, not Tishrei. When I mentioned that about Tishrei, which is about the water, the Todos want you to know the water is supposed to be before Tishrei. But the Chanata is what we care about when we talk about fruit. So the point is, Rabbi Akiva hedged his bets, right? He was mafresh to Maser Sheni, he was poda it, and he gave it away to the Aniyim, and the money he brought up to Yerushalayim. So by taking the money to Yerushalayim, the money had Kedusha. So he then bought fruits in Yerushalayim. He ate that. Sorry. But the poor people, like Benny said before, he gave them the fruits that he was mafresh. Which, if the transfer of the Kedusha to the money was 0, so then okay. So it was nothing. What did he have to do? He had to give the fruits to the poor people. And he did it. But if the fruit really had to be, he had to transfer the Kedusha to the money, then he just gave them regular fruits, an act of tzedakah. It wasn't Maser Ani. So he hedged. Is it year 2 or is it year 3 of the cycle? It was Aleph Shvat. So at least according to Beit Shammai, it's year 3. But according to Beit Hillel, it's not year 3 yet until you get to Tu B'Shvat. Question of a few days. So look at the top of the page. So they one was the Beit Shammai, Beit Hillel, right? So I told Rashi to be top of the page. At the night of the first Shvat, it was the daytime of Al Shvat. He was doing the picking, so it's already Shvat. The other one follows the other thing that he did was Beit Hillel. How we learned Chad Shana at Chamisha Aserbo. It's not the 15th yet. So now the end of the line, the first line of the Gemara. Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda Omer Lo Minig Beit Shammai Beit Hillel Nahag Ba Ella Minig Rabbi Gamliel Rabbi Eliezer Nahag Ba. This is not really an issue between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, according to Rabbi Akiva. He knows what the halacha is. He knows what the halacha follows. That's not his shaila. His shaila is between the two shitas of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Gamliel. What are those two shitas? Rabbi Gamliel. So we learn here. The Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah in Bikurim. Etrog shavel ilan begimel drachim uliyarak b'derech echad. The etrog is just like a fruit-bearing tree in 3 ways, and like a vegetable in 1 way. Shavel ilan begimel drachim la'or l'revayel l'shvid. For 3 things, we're going to say it's like a tree. It's going to go by the first of Shvat. presumably for Orla, for the 4th year count, and for Shemitah count. It's going to go according to that, right? If the Chanata was before Shvat, or if the Chanata was after Shvat, we'll tell you what year it's a part of. Yeah? How is it like a vegetable? Rabbi Gamliel holds that the time when you picked it, that's when it's meiser. It's just like a vegetable. Not like other fruits, like peaches or something, or oranges, where it goes by Shvat, but according to whenever you picked it, just like the rest of the vegetable world. Rabbi Eliezer disagrees. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, it's like a tree in every respect. So what does that mean? According to Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Akiva was hedging between these two opinions. According to Rabbi Gamliel, I picked it on Aleph Shvat. So if I picked it on Aleph Shvat, so it's before Tu B'Shvat. So it belongs to a certain year. Yeah? Aleph Shvat. No, I picked it on Aleph Shvat, and therefore it's before the time. Right, before the time. Did I get that right? Yeah, I'll make sure I got it straight. Rabbi Akiva took both Maser Shin and Maser Ani, because he took Aleph Shvat as the new year according to Rabbi Eliezer, because Rabbi Eliezer is like a tree, right? Okay, and we'll see the Beit Shammai Beit Hillel part in a minute. The Chanata is before this, right? L'chol Adeyot, if it was before Aleph Shvat that the Chanata happened, so for sure it's part of year 2, and then it's a Maser Sheni year. According to Rabbi Gamliel, the Lakita is now, at least according to Beit Shammai, in year 3. So B'choshesh for that, Rabbi Akiva did both. Again, according to Rabbi Gamliel, the Lakita now was in year 3 according to Beit Shammai, because Al Shvat, that was an issue, right? But according to Rabbi Eliezer, it's going to go a Chol Adeyot. The Chanata was before this time, right? It says he picked them, the fruits themselves. So if you're picking a fruit already in Al Shvat, then what was the Chanata? Clearly before. Okay, so that's the issue. So now the question is basically like this. According to the Tanakama, we're going to see this inside now. How could Rabbi Akiva say it's Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel when they contradict each other? He took on the Chumrei Beit Shammai and the Chumrei Beit Hillel. And that's the next question of the Gemara. So if you look at the next line, Umi Avdinan Kitrei Chumrei. So now the Gemara is going to, in a stepwise fashion, challenging Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda, and then challenging this second, first challenging the Tanakama, then challenging Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda. So the backwards. First Tanakama. So challenging Tanakama, right? Umi Avdinan Kitrei Chumrei. V'hatanya, didn't we learn? L'olam alach k'divrei Beit Hillel. V'rotz lasik k'divrei Beit Shammai oseh. K'divrei Beit Hillel oseh. So the halacha really ultimately is going to follow Beit Hillel. As Rashi here points out, when it says like if you want, you could follow Beit Shammai. So the Gemara says, yeah, but didn't the Bat Kol say, do you follow Beit Hillel? No, so it was before the Bat Kol. Before the Bat Kol, you could still choose. There was a 3-year period people didn't know, so you could follow one or the other. So, but it says there also, if you choose, it says Mikule Beit Shammai, Mikule Beit Hillel. If you hedged, you did the Kula of Beit Hillel and Bekula Beit Shammai, Kula Beit Shammai, Bekula Beit Hillel, both. You're a Rasha. If you did Mechumrei Beit Shammai, Mechumrei Beit Hillel, you didn't choose one or the other. So then you're Alava Katuva Mer Vaksil B'Choshech Olech. You're a simpleton. You're a fool that you did that. You're calling Rabbi Akiva a fool? Huh? So no. So now the Gemara explains. Okay? The Gemara explains. Ella. Ike Beit Shammai B'Kulein V'Chumrein. Ike Beit Hillel B'Kulein V'Chumrein. So if you're going to follow Beit Shammai, follow all the chumras and all the kulas. You're going to follow Beit Hillel, follow all the chumras, all the kulas. Yeah. So the answer the Gemara gives is Rabbi Akiva Gamre Istapik Le Avloyada Ibeit Hillel Be'echa B'Shvat. If you look at the Daled there, it tells you Amru Be'echa B'Shvat Amru Ibeit Tu B'Shvat Amru. Rabbi Akiva is a student of Beit Hillel, a student of Hillel himself actually. So if he's a student of Hillel, Rabbi Akiva is not in that line. Not literally, but he's in that line of thinking. So he's a student of the world of Hillel and Beit Hillel. So then he doesn't follow Beit Shammai. Yeah. What he didn't know is who said what. I remind you of this, what I said last time. He didn't have a Gemara in front of him. He didn't have Mishnayos. They hadn't been written down. So that's the answer for the Tanakama. That's the answer to Tanakama. The next question is questioning Rabbi Yosef ben Yehuda. Rabbi Yosef ben Yehuda Omer, Lo Nevi Shama and Nagba, El Beit Hillel Nagba, El Minig, Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Eliezer Nagba. He's hedging by taking both Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Eliezer. Be'echad b'shvat kebei Shammai Nagba. So Rabbi Akiva, according to Rabbi Yehuda, follows Beit Shammai with respect to Aleph Shvat, because according to Beit Hillel, it's certainly still second year until you get to Tu B'Shvat. You haven't arrived at Tu B'Shvat yet. So it shows that here, Rabbi Akiva, in this case, for some reason, was following Beit Shammai. Yet we know that Rabbi Akiva is a Talmud of the Beit Hillel school. So two answers are propounded here. Yeah? Because the Gemara says, like, he must have followed Beit Shammai. It can't be. Amar Rabbi Chanina, v'item Rabbi Chananya. Hacha be'etrich chantu perotav kodem tetvav, the idach shvat askinan. Here we're talking about an etrog, where actually, because remember, etrog is a pre-eitz hadar be'ilan mishalana shana, it stays on like year over year. So Rabbi Chanina says, or Chananya or Chanina, so the case is the following: the chanata happened before the Tu B'Shvat of the year earlier. So to play this out, in year 2 of the 7-year cycle of Shemitah, in year 2, there was a chanata at some point, call it in Chodesh, I don't know what, Chodesh Kislev, Tevet. Then came Chodesh Shvat, it was Tu B'Shvat in year 2, which means it became year 3. Tu B'Shvat, now made it year 3. An entire year went by, and on Aleph Shvat of year 3 going into year 4, he picked it. So when that happened, if you want to, then when did it become year 4? In Tu B'Shvat, which was 14 days later. So everyone holds that the picking happened in year 3, but everyone also holds that the flowering, the chanata, took place when? A year earlier in year 2. So chanata in year 2, picking in year 3, and that must be what happens. And it would have been true that maybe he could have picked it in Kislev or Tevet of year 3. He just happened to wait till Shvat, Aleph Shvat. And why did it say Aleph Shvat? That's when the story happened. Don't read too much into it. Somebody Shammai Beit Hillel, and that's in fact the answer that he gives. He says, "Amar Chanina v'yitem Rabbi Chananya halcha be'etrich shechantu perotav kodem tu the idach Shvat, the other Shvat before Askinan uvedinhu afilu kodem l'chein." It would have been true had he picked it in year 3 in Mar Cheshvan, in Kislev, in Tevet. He happened to have waited till Aleph Shvat, getting close to year 4, and he picked it. So now, according to Rabbi Gamliel, who holds, it said Rabbi Gamliel holds that it's going to be like a yarek. It goes according to the picking. It belongs to year 3. But according to Rabbi Eliezer, it's like an Ilan L'chol Davar. The chanata of the etrog happened a full year earlier, before Tu B'Shvat of the previous year. It's year 2. So that's the first answer that's given. Apparently, when you're a farmer, you see these things and you keep track. I don't know. They tie ribbons.
That's the way you also
identify.
Huh? The farmer identifies the bikurim by tying a ribbon or something.
The bikurim, but this isn't bikurim. This is for masa. Maybe he has another ribbon. A lot of color-coded ribbons. It could be. It could be. Now, Ravina has another answer. Ravina Amar Karuch V'Tani. Right? There's two machloiksim going on here. The two disputes. Rabbi Yosef Bar Yehuda and the Tanakama. Karuch V'Tani means like Korech. Put them all together and learn it. Karuch V'Tani. Combine. Yeah. So lo echad b'shvat haya ela tu b'shvat haya. V'lo minig beit Shammai u beit Hillel nahagba ela minig Rabbi Gamliel Rabbi Eliezer nahagba. That's a great answer. Also kind of technical. Number 1, the story took place on Tu B'Shvat, not on Aleph Shvat. Therefore, according to Beit Shammai, for sure it was already the new year, and according to Beit Hillel, Tu B'Shvat, it was also the new year. But really, the issue was the minhag here was about Rabbi Gamliel versus Rabbi Eliezer, not really a Beit Shammai Beit Hillel split for Rabbi Akiva. He knew that who held what. Rabbi Akiva holds like Beit Hillel. Tu B'Shvat is the date. It was Tu B'Shvat. Whoever copied down the story wrote down Aleph Shvat. They meant to write down Tu B'Shvat. The Aleph. You ever write an Aleph? It's a little like in our script. It's a little circle and a line. So maybe his pen slipped and it looked like a tet vav, but someone else saw tet vav. They thought it was an aleph and they wrote aleph. Live there. I'm making it up as I go along. Otherwise, how did it happen? It's a theory. I made it up just now. I don't even know if it has any basis, but it has to be one cute thing every year, at least one thing. I'm not sure if I'm saying tongue in cheek. Obviously, it's a copyist error. That's what Ravina is saying. Copyist error, basically. Kruch v'tani. The two disputes are the same thing. The story was on Tu B'Shvat, not Aleph Shvat. And the minhag here we're talking about is not between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, because clearly Rabbi Akiva is a Talmud of Beit Hillel, but rather it's following the Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Eliezer split, and we're not sure what to do. So put those two together, yeah, and he'll hedge for that reason. According to Rabbi Gamliel, it's the next thing. The Gemara. Amar Rabba bar Rav Huna. Hast Amar Rabbi Gamliel etrog achel hitato isuro ki yarek Rosh Shlosh Tishrei. If you're going to say, Rabbi Gamliel, as you do, that the meiser goes according to when you pick it, then there still has to be a line somewhere between what's last year's crop and this year's crop. The line must be Tishrei. Rabbi Gamliel said,
but if it's Lakita, plucked it is the year.
the time when you plucked it, and a quart, but for an etrog, the time you plucked it, the time you picked it off the tree is what matters.
Yeah.
According to Rabban Gamliel, unlike all other fruits that grow on trees, where we care about the flowering as determinative of what year it is, the picking is going to be determinative. But let's say you have etrogim growing all the time. So let's say you picked a bunch of etrogim, 100 etrogim from your etrog grove in Elul. Then you picked 100 etrogim in Tishrei, right before Sukkot. So the question is, Batar Lakita. So Batar Lakita, that's its Meiser. If Tu B'Shvat is the starting point each time, so then Batar Lakita, Elul, and Tishrei, same year. But if the line is Tishrei, now we care it's two different baskets. Let me say it in the Tu B'Shvat department. If the line, Rabbi Gamliel says, listen, 3 ways I join with you, Rabbi Eliezer. It's exactly like fruits of the tree. It's going to go by Tu B'Shvat. So, but there's one thing that goes according to when you pick it, not according to the rest of the fruit trees, which work according to flowering. So what's that going to be? You're going to draw a line on Tu B'Shvat. You picked on, the 23rd of Kislev or Tevet. Then you picked in the month of Adar, because they Etrogim around the tree all the time. Line in between is Tu B'Shvat, 2 different baskets, 2 different series of tithes that have to be given. The Gemara here is querying, Rabba Bar Rav Huna is asking, wait a second, now that Rabbi Gamliel made this statement that etrog goes according to Lakita like a Yerek, did he also mean to say that the line for it comes to Meiser, unlike the issue for Orla and Revai and Shvit, where it is Tu B'Shvat, maybe the line goes back to Tishrei or something? Yeah, that's the question. So in other words, it would be the 3rd year for Meiser Ani, but it would be the 4th year when you get to Tu B'Shvat, it'll be Meiser Sheni.
Sorry, I mean, very hard to.
Well, it's a lot of math here, figuring out the logic. I agree.
Either it's Lakita or Hanata, depends upon whose day you follow, right?
Yeah. For Etrogim only. Right.
So then the issue is if it's Lakita, they picked it, is on one side of the line and you're done.
Where's the line?
Question is, where is the line?
Because the ambiguous statement of Rabbi Gamliel is, I agree that etrogim are like fruits, except in one respect. In one respect, they're like vegetables,
right,
in terms of their tithe. So now the question on the table is, well, when you said that, since you just finished saying that it's just like fruits for every other thing, is it's fiscal year 15 Shvat, even though you're saying just it happens to be when you pick it that matters, and we don't care about blossoms, let's do with apples.
Treating it like Lakita, like Yerek.
Right. Or the fact that you said like a Yerek, I mean Tishrei.
Which would be Tishrei.
Right. That's the question.
So what they're saying is you could treat it like vegetables in terms of Lakita, but treat it like a tree.
In terms of where the line is.
Thank you.
That's the Shiloh.
Yeah.
When you said that, what did you mean? Did Do you mean to say the etrog is totally like a vegetable in this regard, or only in terms of the fact that the picking is what's determinative? So the Gemara here says, Amar Rabba bar Rav Huna, Has de Amar Rabban Gamliel etrog achel kitato isuro ki yerek Rosh Hashana shlo Tishrei. Sounds like Rosh Hashana should be Tishrei, Meitvei. Yet we learned, and this will be a statement of Tanaim that will contradict. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Likeit etrog erev Tu B'Shvat, Ad shlo tavo hashemesh, before sunset on erev Tu B'Shvat, aka 14 Shvat, and the sun didn't set. V'chazer b'likeit mishet tavo hashemesh, and you started doing night picking, and it was already dark outside, and it was 15 Shvat. Ein torminu ma'asim is al zeh. Lefisha ein torminu ma'asrin, tormin is truma. We don't take truma and ma'asir from this upon that one. Lefisha ein tormin ma'asrin, lo min achadash al yashan, v'lo min yashan al achadash. We draw a line there. So whatever that statement was seems to have been wrong, right? That when Rabbi and Gamliel said that with respect to Meiser, it's Lakita, it's like goes according to Lakita, not Chanata, he must agree that the Rosh Hashanah is really in Shvat, just like it is for fruits. Because Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, who lived well after, this Rabbi Gamliel, he says that. That's what you do. That seems to be the halacha. If it was the third year going into the fourth year, on Tu B'Shvat it would become the fourth year. Shlishit in the third year, that's Maser Rishon. Umaser Ani, because it's year 3. Revit, the fourth year, Maser Rishon, because that's every year. Umaser Sheni, because the fourth year of the cycle. So next page. Man Shamat Le the Azer Bat Lakita, Rabban Gamliel. Who is the one who told us that we follow Lakita? Rabban Gamliel said, Vikatane Shvat, and yet we're learning here that it has to do with Shvat. Yeah? That i.e. the line is really in Shvat. That Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar holds like Rabban Gamliel, clearly, because Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar's story was about picking things, not about Chanata. So clearly he adopted Rabban Gamliel's opinion. And yet you see that he considered the line where? Tu B'Shvat. Therefore, Rabban Gamliel must have held Tu B'Shvat. How would he have taken half of Rabban Gamliel and ignored the other half, what Rabban Gamliel had said? So, I'itmar hachi itmar. Amar Rabba bar Rav Huna. Afal gav de Amar Rabban Gamliel etrek achal lekita kiyarek Rosh Hashana shelo Shvat. Yeah. So when he said, notwithstanding the fact that he had made this statement that the etrog is like a vegetable when it comes to meiser, i.e., it goes according to Lakita, the Rosh Hashanah is still going to be in Shvat, right? Maishna hat and the katane im haita shnia nichnas lishlishit, umaishna hacha the katane im haita shlishit nichnas l'revit. Why did it tell us one example was year 2 going into year 3, and the next example was year 3 going into year 4? Like, why did it shift in the description? Yeah, it could have just said it one time. We would have been happy. Yeah, it gave the fact that it gave 2 different examples leads us to the possibility. I'm not saying it's true, but possibility. The Gemara is considering this, that maybe there are two sheeted about where the line is. Yeah, so the Gemara answers basically, no. Milta agav urche kamash malan. The Gemara just mentioned it by the by. Yeah. Now, why is that? The etra kashile yada v'aydid the masmashebe kule alma b'shvit lotain peri ad tlat shanim. It was a fascinating idea, but basically, during Shemitah, everything's ownerless. So when you need an etrog in Shemitah, you just walk into a guy's field and just pick yourself an etrog. You can't grab etrogim for your whole family, make a basket out of them. That's not allowed. But one etrog that you need for yourself, that you're really allowed to do. The guy doesn't own it. Not an Arab's farm, by the way. If it's an Arab's farm, going into his property to take it, that's called stealing. Ayin Sham, Parsha Lech Lecha, Aknani Az Ba'aretz, and what happens with the Roy Lot and the Roy Avram and all that, yeah? But it wouldn't have Kedusha at Shvit. But anyway, whatever. But in Shvit, you just go in and you pick it. So Milta Agav Urches is mentioning the etrog trees on Shemitah. Every person is going in there and they all end up touching the tree. Not just the professionals and the farmers, but I think today, in the old days, we would say every Tom, Dick, and Harry is going into the field. I don't know how you'd say it now. It's probably just some female analog or something because of the pronouns. But, right? Every tree is, everyone handles it. So the orchards are basically declared ownerless. So you know what ends up happening? The trees don't end up bearing fruit that you can eat for another 3 years because of what happens in Shemitah, that everyone goes in and grabs the Etrogim. Again, they can't grab a basket full, they take one. So
I didn't understand because it's treated
the way that people manhandle the trees,
as if the trees are starting from scratch.
starting from scratch. And that's why it starts mentioning the third year into the fourth year. You know, the idea with the etrog is third year into fourth year instead of second year to third year. At the beginning of our Gemara, we're talking about second year into third year was the expression. Now we moved from third year to fourth year. Why third year, fourth year? Because Lamaisa, Shemitah, so year 1, 2, into year 3, there's not going to be any fruit anyway. So in year 3, that's when the fruit shows up. That's the idea. Anyway, it is what it is. Last thing. When is the Rosh Hashanah's the Etrog's Rosh Hashanah? Amar le Shvat. The answer is Shvat. We already established that. Shvat Chodashim or Shvat Tkufa? What do you mean by Shvat? Do you mean Shvat because Rosh Chodesh Shvat, going according to the Moilad and when it's going to be Rosh Chodesh, or is it going to go according to the solar season? And the Moilad and the Tkufa of Shvat maybe is going to be a period of time not less than 30 days from the winter solstice, which is where? That's Tkufa Teve. That's in the middle, right there. So Rabbi Yana answers him, he's related to Chodashim. Goes according to the months. Ba'amine Ravam Rav Nachman, Ba'amri La Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yana. Haita Shanamu Bert Mo. What if it was a leap year the year before? So everything's really pushed off, solar and lunar. Samarle, Halach Achar Rav Shanim. Nah, just follow according to most of the years. That's what people generally do.
Should be lunar.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I have time for tonight. We'll stop here. We'll gather, God willing, in health and happiness next Monday night. It's a few minutes after 8 already, so that's that. Wish everyone good things, a good night. Let there be peace, and until next time. Back to Monday nights. God willing. Thanks, Chuck. Be well.